And we are live for now, at least. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by PrizePicks. It is Monday, June 26th. I lost internet 8 minutes ago, came back, maybe. So bear with us here on this one. You might get solo Adam for a little bit. I know everybody will prefer that. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Names are beneath our bodies. Adam, what's up?
Yeah, how's it going? Hopefully your internet holds out because I don't want to do that shit.
Yeah, I know. To be fair, I had that same experience for about 18 months of doing shows with you and not knowing if your internet was going to make it. So you owe me like a couple more at this point.
I forgot that was even here.
That feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I thought that was previous company.
Our shows are like not even comparable to what they were at that point.
No, not at all.
They are better in all facets, visually, audio, quality, the way that we disseminate information. Every single bit of it is better. Like we were making it work. And that was not that long ago. It's incredible how much it's changed. So wild. Your Orioles are on the slate. Looks like they've got a fun one today. More young prospects. How many of these dudes are we going to be calling up this year?
Yeah, finally. I've been waiting for Westberg. I assume he's going to be starting over Mateo typically, but lefty today, so they're both in the lineup.
Should be fun, right?
Yeah, and
this guy was like a first-round pick 2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, he was the same draft. I think the same draft as Rutschman and Henderson. He was like the second round. He was either a supplemental pick or second round pick.
Jesus, that's a decent top of the draft.
Yeah,
I guess
that whole draft is insane. I was looking at it the other day because there was Rutschman. I think it was the same draft. Maybe it was a year after, but the Rutschman draft, it had Rutschman, Henderson, Corbin Carroll, Rodriguez, like incredibly good draft.
Carroll having a decent year.
Yeah, not bad.
Just, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Man, I really hope that we make it through this. I just keep looking to my left now to see if all the modem lights go off again like they did. I was like, man, my internet's really choppy. I was trying to pull something up. I was like, man, this is going really slow. I was sitting here and I was like, Jordan, is my internet messed up? Like, am I okay? And then all of a sudden, Zoom closes. Whatever website was loading wasn't going well. I looked to my left. All the lights are off on my modem. I was like, oh, no, that's bad timing. We're having work done at the house. I was like, those guys like hit a cable, but they're like doing cosmetic stuff on my front porch. I was like, they would have to really try their best to screw this one up. So
Westberg was the draft after Rutschman.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is wild. And then I pulled up the internet, like my Spectrum app, and it was telling me that we were going to be donezo till 7 p.m., which was irritating. This would have been the second time in a week. But I guess we're here. So you want to talk some baseball?
Yeah, I guess.
We are starting with your Baltimore Orioles. 5.2 run implied total for Baltimore, 4.9 for the Reds. Cole Irvin and Brandon Williamson. Irvin 6% owned. He is 5K. Williamson 1% owned. He is 5,300. Are you surprised Cole Irvin isn't pulling more ownership? Or is it just too many runs on the opposite side for the Reds?
Yeah, I mean, not that surprised. His ownership did come down a little bit. It was like 8% this morning. It's like 6% now. I think it's that you have, not only do you have the top end pitching on this slate with Strider and Castillo, but you have the really underpriced Dylan Cease and Reed Detmers as well. Strong mid-range. You also have Heaney and Verlander there. So I don't know that there's that much need to pay down for Irvin. I think he's underpriced at 5K just in the same way that pretty much any true starting pitcher is going to be underpriced if they're 5K. But it is a tough matchup. And he's not a particularly good pitcher.
No, he is not. Just an interesting spot, though. Like on a 6-game slate, I was a little surprised to see him not pulling a little bit more because I think the value is there, even with a bad run environment.
Yeah, when I did my Sims video earlier and ran the Sims tool for DraftKings, Irvin showed up like 13% of the time. Okay. So I think of the cheap pitchers, he's where you would go first.
Yeah, that I completely agree with because you're all the way at the bottom, and I think he probably projects better than most of those guys. You can have a conversation about Boyd if you want, but we're not as cheap.
Yeah, I wasn't even including Boyd.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like we're $1,200 away from each other. There's no justification for Williamson here, right?
I don't think so. I mean, outside of it's a 6-game slate, he's cheap. Like if you're playing 150 lineups, maybe you land on a little bit, but he's been incredibly bad in the majors. He wasn't good in the minors. I don't really see a reason to get to him here.
All right. Well, we're on the same page there. Let's talk about one other thing. Look out your window. How's the weather for today in Baltimore?
Right now it's sunny and hot.
Okay.
I think it's supposed to be fine.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to touch on anything too crazy when it comes to weather. So I guess we'll allow you to be the homer that you are on this show on a regular basis. Wait, that can't be right. That can't be right.
What?
Am I? All right. The Baltimore Orioles are the number one team in ownership. We have them 7th in top stack, 5th in top value. We'll just have a bigger conversation here. How do you feel about Baltimore today?
Better than that.
Yeah, they're my number one team across the board.
Yeah, I mean, the park, we talk about it a lot with the Orioles. When they're facing left-handed pitching at home, it kind of sucks because they have right-handed power, but this park just does so much to downplay it. Whereas when they're facing right-handed pitching, you just have a lineup full of lefties in a park that plays up left-handed power, but still looks like a very good team to get to. They're not that expensive. Rutschman's the only guy above 5K on DraftKings. Mullins is 5K flat. Hayes is leading off. He's still 3,800. I have no idea why he's so inexpensive. Santander is only 4,400. You have Hicks batting cleanup for 2,600. We mentioned Jordan Westburg at the top of the show, but he's batting 7th, 2K flat. I think 18 home runs at AAA this year. His ISO, AAA for Baltimore is a pitcher's park, and he still has a 272 ISO this year at AAA, 404 WOBA, 131 WRC plus. I mean, the guy can hit, and he's 2K flat against a below average pitcher in Williamson. So you get value here. You get tons of upside. They look really good.
How do you want to handle the ownership? To me, I think it's warranted at the very least. I do think they are the best option. I do think they should be carrying the most ownership, other than the fact that they have 900 outfielders in their lineup on DraftKings. What does anything worry you here? Because I mean, Hayes at 21% on a 6-game slate, like that's not all that crazy to me. Like you should obviously like Westberg for flat 2K as a shortstop. I'm surprised he's not even more owned.
Yeah, the only concern I have is McKenna, who's only getting 5% ownership, probably going to get pinch hit for at some point. Okay. Although if they're playing from ahead, then he probably stays in for defense. But you could certainly, if he's up in a big spot later in the game, you're probably getting O'Hearn hitting in that spot. But other than that, not too concerned. Like I don't expect. It's unlikely that Urias or Westberg or Mateo are getting pinch hit for. Hayes obviously isn't. Rutschman and Santander aren't. Hicks probably isn't. So overall, I'm not overly concerned. And like you said, it's a 6-game slate. So, yeah, there is some ownership coming in here. From a stacking standpoint, you can definitely find ways to be different. Mateo, Mullins, McKenna all projected less than 10% ownership. But also on a 6-game slate, a $3,800 Hayes leading off isn't even that, chalky at 21%. Same goes for Santander, who's cheap. Urias is cheap. Like, considering how cheap this team is, I'm surprised they're not more popular.
Yeah, me too. We look at the opposite side of the Reds. 8th in top stack, 9th in top value, 5th in ownership. I'm a little bit more optimistic about the Reds side as well. I like the implied total for this game. I generally speaking like the spot for Irvin. But the real key for the Cincinnati Reds today is the fact that they have 5 guys in their lineup with an MPE. These guys are incredibly easy to mix and match.
Yeah, and they're not cheap as a whole, but there are enough value plays in this lineup that you can use to offset some of the more expensive guys like De La Cruz. De La Cruz coming in at 5,800, obviously, expensive but warranted. But you have Kevin Newman leading off for cheap with MPE, like you said. Nick Senzel only 3,900. So there are a couple guys in there you can use to offset the more expensive price tags. They look fine. Cole Irvin's not good. He spent most of the year at AAA this year, but in the time that he's been with the Orioles, he's allowed a 331 expected ISO to righties, 456 expected WOBA. If you go back to last year, it's 224 expected ISO, 345 expected WOBA. Just not very good, and facing a lineup full of right-handed hitters.
Are the Orioles the better play today?
I think so.
Yeah. There's not a big enough ownership gap between the two for it to really matter, but I'm fascinated by this game. Like, to me, this is pretty clearly the best game that you can get to for offense. We're sort of seeing that in ownership with Baltimore being 1 and Cincinnati being 5. But at the same time, we've just got a few teams that are pulling a ton of it and then a few teams that simply aren't. But I like this run environment. Maybe, are you surprised? I think we're going to see a top stack update at some point that maybe bumps up Baltimore and Cincinnati. Were they this low earlier?
I don't remember.
Just like I look at these guys, like Milwaukee being 4th in top stack ahead of Baltimore and Cincinnati is surprising to me.
Yeah. And as far as pinch hitting goes, Josh Gillum asked about Gunnar Henderson. O'Hearn was just the first left-handed name I thought of, but yeah, Henderson probably coming in at some point. You could certainly see him hit for Urias, would be my guess, or Mateo.
So I guess ranking this game would be pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Baltimore, Cincinnati, Irvin, Williamson.
Okay. Anything else we're missing here? Have you run any crunches yet? Do you have any concept of where you're at right now?
No, I mean, I did my Sims video, but lineups have come out since then, so things are a little bit different.
Alrighty. Well, folks, 1 game down. Disasters so far averted. I am, as best I could tell, still on the show and still having a conversation with Adam. So that's probably a good thing. Hit the like button if you can. We can talk schedule for the rest of the day, which is very simple. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. That's the easiest thing that I could let you guys know. They'll take you all the way up until 7:05. I do also just want to touch on BetMGM. I know that we talk about these guys a lot, but anytime that we're going to get potentially one new person watching this show, they should hear this, because if they're in a legal sports betting state, taking advantage of this deal is essential. You can get up to $1,000 back in bet credits and 1 month of Stokastic Plus Platinum for free, as long as you click the link in the description and sign up using that link. Whatever you put down for your first bet, up to $1,000 is covered. So let's just say you put down $500 on the Reds today money line. Just go with this example. If you win, that money just stays in your account. All things are great. You have nothing to worry about after that, and you've got a month of our Stokastic Plus Platinum package. If for some reason that bet happens to lose, you're not just out of luck. You will get $500 back in bet credits, and you'll get another chance to run through that. This is an incredible offer. These types of things aren't going to exist forever. I pray that they still exist in what I hope is January, no later than June, when it gets to North Carolina, and I have the opportunity to take advantage of every single one of these offers. I don't need the free month of Stokastic, but you guys might want it. I wouldn't blame you for it. I already have it free forever. It's really nice to be grandfathered into that. What I want you guys to do is sign up using that link. And got to let you know now, 1-800-GAMBLER is the number that you need to call if you or someone you know has a little bit of an issue, has a little bit of a gambling problem. And you got to be 21 or over too, but click the link in the description, guys. All right, Mets and Brewers, 4.7 run implied total for the Mets, 3.9 for the Brewers. Justin Verlander on the hill for New York. Colin Ray on the hill for Milwaukee. Verlander, 8,300, 32% owned. We also have Colin Ray, 5,600, 1% owned. Let's start with Verlander. Where do you land here? I don't know what to do with this guy anymore, and I wish he wasn't on slates.
Yeah, it's a really interesting spot because he's cheap at 8,300. You do get a good strikeout matchup against Milwaukee. Against right-handed pitching this year, the Brewers have their active roster has a 24% strikeout percentage, 91 WRC plus. They're getting out of Miller Park, playing in Citi Field, which is a downgrade for the bats. And I've said it before with Verlander, his strikeout numbers are down this year, but he's also had a lot of really tough matchups. If you go back and look at his individual starts. So I do expect the strikeout percentage to come up. Most projection models still have him rest of season projected around 26% or so. So far this year, only a 20.5% K rate. So probably see him regress and that number come up, but still a really interesting spot because there are some power bats in the Brewers lineup. And when I did my Sims video earlier, the Brewers were one of the stacks that were actually showing up a lot because they're not very popular. They are facing a popular pitcher in Verlander. And with this being a 6-game slate, it just kind of lends itself more to making those sort of plays where you're getting leverage against popular pitchers as opposed to 10 and 12 game slates where you kind of just can avoid either side. So the Brewers were showing up a lot in that sim. Again, I don't know if that'll be the case for me later, but they were grading out as a positive stack, going up against a popular Verlander who hasn't been that good this year.
I only have 19%. So I assume today is the day that he goes out there and looks like vintage Verlander.
Yeah.
Maybe Kate gave him a tugger or something before the game or something, really got his momentum going.
Yeah, I mean,
very annoying.
When I did the Sims video, he was the popular pitcher that I wasn't getting to.
Yeah, I'm not going to feel good about him for the entire season. Like when I have him, he's going to be shit. When I don't have him, he's going to be vintage Verlander. I can feel that for the rest of this year.
His game logs are wild. It's like 20 plus negative, 20 plus negative, 20 plus negative.
I'd love to overlay that with my exposures for those days.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be good. Yeah. 19% right now. Totally cool with that amount. I don't have anything else really to add. Do you have any interest in Colin Rea on the opposite side?
No, he's similar to Williamson, not in terms of pitching. Like he's a better pitcher than Williamson, but tough matchup against the Mets, not a lot of strikeouts, solid offense overall. If you're playing 150 lineups, it's a 6-game slate. You'll probably get a little bit, but no.
Easy enough for me. Then let's talk backs here. Third in our top stack tool, 8th in value. They're also third in ownership. What do you want to do with the Mets against Colin Rea?
I think they're a decent stack. 4.8 implied run total. The park's not great for power. Rea isn't bad. So far this year, striking out about 20% of hitters, 148 expected ISO to righties, 179 to lefties. So not surprisingly, you're going to prefer left-handed bats. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, the two that are going to stand out the most. But you still have a pretty inexpensive Marte. Pete Alonso obviously has tons of power. Brett Beatty is cheap. Alvarez is a high upside catcher. Overall, an inexpensive stack. Lindor, the most expensive guy on DraftKings at 4,700. Or sorry, Alonso at 5,300. Then Lindor at 4,700. Nimmo's the only other guy north of 4K. So pretty easy team to get to, I think.
Okay. What do I like most here? I've got a pretty decent chunk of the Mets. The balance between Pete Alonso and Vogelbach is really interesting. Like, oh, do you want to spend all the way up for Pete Alonso? Great. Do you want to do the exact opposite to try to buy a home run? You could do that as well. Like that's $3,100 gap between the two. Like obviously you prefer Pete Alonso by a lot, but like in the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty nice spot to try to get to Vogelbach.
Yeah, if you need the savings, perfectly fine.
Yeah. I am getting to a decent chunk of the Mets right now. I have no real issues with that. Are you getting to the Brewers? Because this is a team 10th in ownership of the 12 that are on the slate. We are, as a site, are way higher on.
Yeah, they were showing up a ton in the Sims video. I mentioned that before, but not surprising because we're using our projections and our Sims tool, and we obviously are high on them here. Verlander, hasn't been great this year, as we talked about. 195 expected ISO to lefties, 149 to righties. Looking to Christian Yelich, Rowdy Tellez, Jesse Winker's cheap. All those guys from the left side are solid. And then, you're getting a really good shortstop in Adames. You're getting a good high upside catcher in Contreras. So there is some merit to stacking them just because they're not going to be that popular. You are getting negative leverage against Verlander, but it's also not a great park to hit in. And 3.7 implied run total is one of the lower run totals on the slate.
I'm doubling up the ownership right now, which I guess I'm fine with. If I'm going to be light on Verlander, I might as well get myself some Brewers bats and hope that the power of Yelich, Contreras, Tellez, Adames can carry. I did not expect to be getting to the Milwaukee Brewers today. I didn't see that earlier when I ran any lineups. To be fair, I actually don't have the updated Brewers lineup, so I'm going to hope that every name that I just mentioned is in the lineup. Yelich, Contreras, Tellez, Adames. Okay, so everything that I said was at least true for, I should have said nothing. No one would have known. Oh, God. Rank this game.
Verlander, Mets, Brewers, right?
Yeah. It's safe. It feels good to know that Ray is last. Verlander versus the Mets is a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I don't have a strong preference there. I typically just going to lean with the pitcher over the offense.
Yeah, the only reason that it's weird to me is that you've got Heaney, Cease, and Detmers below him, all basically, similarly owned. It's a nice crop in that mid tier where they're easily swappable.
Yeah, if somebody in that group were just like not getting ownership, they would be like the best tournament play, but they're all relatively popular.
Yeah, I have drawn the line in the sand, which I don't love, but I don't mind the guy I got. Let's see. Anything else that we should be touching on from this game? This one actually has, I don't know if you mentioned this, a little bit of weather for this one as well. Seems like it should be fine.
Yeah, I think right now it looks like it should be okay.
Keep an eye on it, folks. We move on to my Atlanta Braves hosting the Minnesota Twins. I didn't like it because it got annoying, but I really enjoyed the Braves just being in Cincinnati for a while. Always a great park to target. 5-run implied total for Atlanta, 3.5 for the Twins. Spencer Strider on the hill for the Braves. Sonny Gray on the hill for Minnesota. Strider, 46% owned at a crisp 12,600, while Sonny Gray is 9,600 and pulling absolutely no ownership. Let's start with Strider. How do you feel? I mean, I think that you and I are going to be on the same page that he's very clearly the best option today, but what do you want to do with 12.6? Because that is a price tag.
Yeah, I mean, the price tag obviously makes it so you can't just, or it's harder at least to just jam him in everywhere, but he still looks great. I mean, he has the highest strikeout percentage on the slate by like 10 points. Luis Castillo is great, and his strikeout percentage is 10 points lower than Strider, who struck out 39% of hitters this year. XFIP is nearly a full run better than anybody else on the slate. And this Minnesota lineup is bad. Their active roster has about a 28% strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching. But no Byron Buxton today, no Royce Lewis. Strider's only real problem this year has been that he's had issues with right-handed power, 209 expected ISO. He's still striking right. He's out at a 41% clip. He's just given up some power, but we're not getting either of two of Minnesota's best right-handed hitters in the lineup. Correa is really the only right-handed bat that has significant power here. So when I did the Sims video earlier, Minnesota was showing up a lot, and it makes sense in the sense that you're getting a nearly 50% owned pitcher. You have an offense that has some power, and if he pitches poorly, you're in a really good spot. But that was also before Minnesota's lineup came out, so I think they look actively worse than they did at that time.
Okay. You want to get to any of your boy today?
I think it's really, really, really hard on this slate. One, you have the tough matchup with Atlanta. Really, really good offense, implied run total north of 5, which is surprising against Gray, but at the same time, it's Atlanta and they score 100 runs every game, so I get it. But also you have some kind of workload concerns with Gray. He did throw 92 pitches in 5 innings last time out, but we've just seen Minnesota pulling him from games relatively early, often enough that it's not that you're like Xing him out or anything, but it's a legitimate concern. And then on top of that, when you just think about how the pricing is sort of structured today, you get 2 better pitchers, in good matchups with Strider and Castillo that are more expensive. But then you also get really high upside guys like Detmers, Cease, even Verlander for a lot less than Gray. It just becomes a really, really difficult price range to get, or price tag to get to.
Well, let's talk about those Braves bats because they are second in our top stack tool, dead last in value, which should not be very surprising. These guys are incredibly expensive to get to. They're 8th in ownership. What's the balance here? Because assuming you like Strider, you're already in for a lot of salary. Olsen 6K, Acuna's 6,500, Albies and Riley are both mid 5s. You got Sonny Gray on the opposite side. Like, clearly on a 6-game slate, acquiring let's just say the best offense, or at least second best offense, raw talent-wise on the slate, is always going to be interesting. But can you get here today? Can you afford it? What do you do if you want to go to Atlanta? It's a weird spot.
Yeah, I kind of like it in tournaments just because we don't have them getting much ownership, and you can get to them while still playing high upside pitching. Like, it's going to be tough to get there with Strider. Maybe this is probably where you would use like Cole Irvin, for example, as an SP2 if you're going to Strider. But like, you could also go Detmers, Cease, Verlander, Detmers, stuff like that, where you're paying 15, 16K for your 2 pitchers, and you're going to be able to afford Atlanta. And while neither of those guys are Strider, you're paying like 75% of Strider's salary, and you're still getting guys that have 25 to 30% K percentages.
I don't have a lot of Atlanta right now. I'm basically neutral to the field. I have some 5-mans, but not a lot. I am aggressively jamming Spencer Strider, so that is happening. I will never have a problem with that in any way. Although I did aggressively jam Spencer Strider 2 weeks ago, and it was the start where it went ultra, ultra poor. Sat my dad down. I was like, Dad, it's a Spencer Strider guy for Atlanta. He's like exceptional, strikes people out on like a crazy rate. Let's just buckle up. Let's sit down, watch this one. It's going to be fun. And I want to, like, it might have been over in the first inning. It was almost immediate. I don't remember which start it was, but he got absolutely shellacked. And I was like, okay, cool. I hope you enjoyed that one, Dad. It's not fun. you want to go to any Minnesota Twins bats against Strider here?
Like I said, they were showing up in the Sims tool. We have them going under owned. I think I'm a little bit lower on them, but when I recorded that video with the Sims tool, it was also before we got the lineup, and this lineup is garbage. So if you're going to Minnesota, I think it's just, it is 90 degrees in Atlanta. The ball's going to carry. Strider has had some home run issues this year, mostly with righties, which are mostly non-existent in this lineup. But it's purely the leverage against Strider, low ownership type play. There's nothing really that you're looking at and saying, like, I think this dog shit Twins lineup is going to do well.
Fair enough. Yeah, I got nothing else really here to add. Ranking the game is pretty interesting because some of these things just look like equally as uninteresting.
Strider, Braves, Twins, Gray.
Yeah.
Gray purely because of the salary.
Yeah, I wish there was a path to getting to Gray, but there's too many Gray-like dudes on today's slate
that are just way less expensive and not facing the Braves.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't care that I'm going to save, when Sonny Gray comes in at 3% owned or 4% owned or whatever it actually is. Like, I don't care about that savings as much because I assume one of Verlander, Heaney, Cease, or Detmers at the very least is going to be good enough. And probably two of those guys are going to be good enough that you would need Sonny Gray to go out against the best offense in baseball that doesn't strike out a shit ton, at least this lineup, and just mow these dudes down for like 7 innings. Good luck.
Right.
You're better off betting
that
it
in
at
and
that
of itself
point.
is a problem too. Like 5, 4, 5, 6 2/3, 6, 5, 4, 5 1/3, 5. Those are the innings pitched from Gray over his last however many starts I just named.
Yeah, you're going to need a win and 8+ Ks, no runs type stuff to just be a better option than all of those other guys.
He's thrown 100 pitches twice this year. The most recent time was May 23rd.
Can't even get up over that 10K price tag. Such a chump.
Right.
God, that also feels like it was a decade ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Oh, incredible. Well, I got nothing else here. Do you?
Nope.
Next one's going to be really easy to talk about because that is PrizePicks, the sponsor of this video. And I talk about PrizePicks a lot. I drop a PrizePicks video onto YouTube each day. I summarize that video as another video on Twitter each day. Been running hot on PrizePicks. I believe it's 23-7 over the last 30 plays. Quite the heater. Back-to-back 4-0 days. We're back again for today. So make sure you're checking all of that out. My recommendation, signing up for PrizePicks by clicking the link in the description of this video. It's that easy. If you've never done it before, you'll get up to $100 on your first deposit. That's a pretty decent deal. You'll also get a month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Even better deal. That's like $140 value. You're trying to go more or less on all sorts of different categories across tons of sports. MLB, WNBA, NCAA baseball, tennis, soccer, League of Legends, KBO is still around. The Big Three is back. You can take Big Three things if you want. I pay very close attention to hitter fantasy scores. That's the baseline of my videos. Seems to be working pretty well. I'm going to hit Adam with a couple of my favorite options for today. We're going to see what he feels about these PrizePicks plays. So more or less than, let's go 8 we haven't talked about this guy yet. 8 fantasy points to Mike Trout. And he might actually just not be in the lineup. I have no idea. No, he is. Cool. Okay. I've got this one as a powerful under. This is my second biggest under of today. We're going to go to the Rangers now. Over 7 for Marcus Semien.
Way over.
I'm sorry, more or less than 7. Not supposed to say the O word in these scenarios.
Oh, more.
Yeah, I did it. So, it's fine. How about Corey Seager, teammate here? More or less than 8?
Slightly more.
Okay, that one's another under for me. I don't normally get situations where I'm going more on a hitter on one team and then less on a hitter on that same team. Today was actually the first time I did that in a video. So I have more for Semien, less for Seager. I put 5 plays out there. If you're looking for them, folks, check out my Twitter or head to our YouTube channel. But if you want more PrizePicks content, we've got plenty of it over on Odds Shopper. You could use the Odds Shopper Pick'em package. Very new, came out within the last 2 or 3 weeks. You can get it for 70% off. If you're interested, promo code is welcome, I believe. Ready to keep it going?
Yep.
The Rangers, 5-run implied total, taking on the Tigers at 3.8. Andrew Heaney on the hill for Texas. Matt Boyd, your other boy. This is just a list of your dudes pitching today. Boyd going for the Tigers. 23% ownership coming into Heaney, just 4 coming into Boyd. Let's start with Heaney, who is the guy that I want the most out of this group of 4 dudes. What are you doing with him?
Yeah, I think he looks good. I think he's pretty comparable to the other guys. Detroit, not a very good offense, 91 WRC plus on their active roster against left-handed pitching this year. You're probably going to have a right-handed heavy lineup. It might actually be entirely right-handed, but Heaney can still strike righties out. He's not doing it at the same clip that he was with the Dodgers, but still a 23% strikeout percentage against righties this year. The risk is that he's also allowed a 206 expected ISO to righties. You don't have the best hitters on the Tigers, but Torkelson still has some power, supposedly. Eric Haas has power. Veerling's been hitting pretty well this season. Baez, when he's swinging at pitches in the strike zone, still has some power. So it's Andrew Heaney. Like, he gives up power. There is risk, but he's only 8K. He's got a pretty good matchup overall, and there's certainly upside there.
Can you get to your boy Boyd?
In tournaments, I guess. Like, he's 6,200, and he has better strikeout stuff than that. 23.7% K percentage, 4.34 xFIP. He's a pretty average pitcher in terms of run prevention. He's a little bit above average in terms of strikeouts, but you still have a brutal matchup here against Texas. 129 WRC plus on their active roster against left-handed pitching since the start of last year. 20.5% K percentage. It's a brutal spot for Boyd. 5.3 implied run total for the Rangers. So he's another one where it's a 6-game slate, so probably get a little bit at 4% owned, but ideally I'm just living in that range, starting with Detmers at 7,300 and going up.
I guess we're probably better off talking about the Rangers bats. We have them as the number 1 stack. They are 11th in value, 4th in ownership. How do you see Texas against your other boy in Boyd?
Yeah, they look really good. They're expensive at the top and in the middle of the order. You can offset some of that salary using like Ezekiel Duran or Mitch Garver as you go down the lineup, but they look good if you can get to them. 6,100 on Semien, 6,200 on Seager. Josh Young, I like at 4,700 quite a bit. Against righties this year, 181 expected ISO allowed by Boyd. Lefties sub 100, but if you're stacking Texas, still obviously can include Seager and Lowe. They're both just really, really good hitters. Those are the only 2 lefties in their lineup. So overall, if you can find the salary, they look like a good stack.
Of the teams that are very clearly like having higher projected run totals, Orioles, Reds, Mets, Braves, Rangers, I'm very light on Texas. I'm happy to give some respect to Boyd. It does. It does. How do you look at Texas and Atlanta?
I think they're similar. I like Texas a little bit more just because Boyd's not gray.
That's fair. And I like the second, short, third, outfield, first, 1 through 5. Is it expensive? It is, but yeah, that's a very nice balance.
One thing that sucks, the only thing really that sucks about the Texas stack is one, they have 0 MPE guys, but also 6 and 7 are both catchers with Hyman Garver. So obviously that's not a problem on FanDuel, but on DraftKings it is.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the Tigers at all against Heaney today?
I think they're a kind of interesting, like 2-man, 3-man team. Not a team that I really necessarily want 5 guys from, but just trying to grab a home run or 2 against Heaney, knowing that he gives them up very often.
Now all I want to do is eat 5 guys.
Oh, I forgot what I even said.
Phrasing, I guess. I didn't mean it like that. I meant a cheeseburger and French fries.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that till you said it, but I was just trying to figure out where it came from.
Yeah. Best fast food burger.
5 Guys.
You think? Like that would be your...
Yeah.
If you could just have one like under your building, that would be what you would want. Because I would go in and out, I think.
That would be awful. I've never had in and out.
Okay. It's fair. That's fair. Regular or Cajun fries, that's not even a question, right? It's Cajun.
Yeah.
Anybody can serve you regular fries.
Their fries aren't good, though.
5 Guys is no fast food. It's absolutely fast food. What are we talking about here?
I mean, it's not McDonald's.
They don't have a drive-through. Like, is that the determination of fast food? Because when I go to those places, your McDonald's, your Burger Kings, your Wendy's, it's not exactly fast anymore. They're not bringing in like highly efficient workforce. In my experience, it's usually guys that don't know how to make a burger. So I don't trust the speed as much. But yeah, well, that's no drive-through, no fast food. Completely disagree now.
I don't think. I mean,
you're getting that burger in a comparable amount of time.
I think it's a very different. I think it's a different level than like McDonald's, Wendy's.
Because it's better?
Yeah, but I don't know.
So where do we draw the line? Is Chipotle fast food?
Chipotle is the same as Five Guys.
Yeah, like again, to me, that's fast food. Is Subway fast food?
Same as Five Guys.
Okay, so like Subway has to be fast food, no? So this is the distinguishing factor for you drive-through.
I guess. I don't know. It's just like if you for the purpose of this conversation, when you said fast food, I knew you were like including Five Guys and stuff.
Yeah.
But like if someone were to just say to me like, you know, I'm getting fast food today, I wouldn't assume they're getting Chipotle or Five Guys.
But I wouldn't be like caught off guard when they say it. Apparently chat's like, yeah, Chili's, Red Robin. Yeah, those are sit-down restaurants.
Yeah, those are restaurants.
I think the distinguishing factor, and I think this is a decent one, is whether or not you are provided a menu. Like Chili's, Red Robin, you get a menu at your seat. Five Guys, Subway, all these places that we're talking about, Chipotle, menu behind the counter, same ordering process as everywhere else. You order at the counter. To me, that's where the line is for fast food. You order at a counter.
Yeah, but I don't know. I still think there's a distinction.
I think that's only because we didn't have good places other than Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's back in the day. Like there was no alternative to that. There was that like the Chipotle Five Guys type thing.
I think it's drive-through for me. Like, okay, but like Subways occasionally have drive-throughs. But
do they?
I don't know. Like Emax said, like if you're on a road trip, you're not like, and you're gonna stop for fast food. You're not going to like you're not talking about Five Guys.
I would if I drove past. I'd be so happy that I didn't have to get Burger King. But I'm going to have the exact same amount of time doing everything. Here's the question for you. Domino's.
I feel like pizza is totally different.
Because it's just pizza. Like, I agree with you that I would not call Domino's fast food. 100% has a drive-through, at least the one by my house.
I don't know if it does or not.
Basically, you've already put that order in and you're just saving yourself the time.
Right.
Interesting conversation here that I'm happy that I was able to buy like 2 or 3 minutes of because, you know, we're out in front a little bit. It's about taking your food to go within 15 minutes. Agreed. So I assume Mr. Grapefruit is on my side. D's been, not going to lie, Josh is making a lot of sense. I don't know about that. It is an interesting distinction. I should ask ChatGPT what they think. You know what? We're going to do it. And I'm even going to go model 4. So we get like the good answer because model 3.5 is basically like asking chat. Not a lot of people are going to get that one, but I know you do. Is Five Guys a fast food restaurant? Yes? Does that prompt work for you?
Yeah.
Yes. Five Guys is considered a fast food restaurant. However, it may be classified as fast casual, shout out chat for spewing that a lot, because it typically offers a higher quality of food and a bit more customization than a traditional fast food restaurant. So I guess the answer is maybe. Fast casual is a real dumb way to like rebrand fast food. That's what's happening there. Five Guys doesn't want to be lumped in with Burger King.
Oh, yeah,
so
100%.
Someone has created a new terminology for the exact same situation. Higher quality should not change the speed of the food. Angels and White Sox. 4.4 run implied total for the Angels, 4 for the White Sox. Reed Detmers going for the Angels, Dylan Cease going for the White Sox. Very interesting conversation to start having now. I know we've got some lineups here too for the Angels at least.
Yeah, we just got a new Angels lineup.
Again?
Yeah, I don't know who scratched, but
I don't know. Trout and Ohtani are still in it, so whatever the answers are, they probably don't matter too much. Detmers right now, 7,300, 30% owned. Cease, 7,700, 26% owned. Let's just start here. Which one's better?
I go Detmers first, just because he doesn't have to face Trout and Ohtani. He's been really, really good this year. You've seen him take that big step forward. He has the third highest strikeout percentage on the slate behind Castillo and Strider. Basically the same numbers this year as Castillo, and he's just like $4,000 less expensive. 28.2% K percentage, 3.79 xFIP, 9% walk percentage. You compare that to Castillo, 28.6% strikeout percentage for him, 7.5% walk percentage is a little bit lower, 3.69 xFIP is like a tenth of a run lower. So very, very comparable numbers, and just a lot less expensive for Detmers. And again, doesn't have to face Ohtani and Trout is probably the tiebreaker for me.
I'm not getting to much of either guy because I'm getting to Heaney and to Verlander. When you look at Verlander, Heaney, Cease, and Detmers, and I know you haven't run lineups yet, but just on the surface, is there a guy that you expect to be the odd man out?
It was Verlander for me earlier. I would prefer it to be Heaney.
Okay. You would prefer Heaney to be the odd man out?
I like Heaney less than the other three guys, yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's not, I thought for a second you just heard me wrong.
Yeah. Okay. And I like Heaney, but if I can,
sure.
If I can only play three of them, I like Detmers, Cease, and Verlander more.
Okay. Interesting to see. All right, chat. Look, I'm going to put this information out there for you guys. I want to be, in the interest of full disclosure, I have right now 70% Andrew Heaney. We have seen on multiple shows recently that has not been a good thing. So I just want you guys to know, make your decisions moving forward, knowing that Andrew Heaney appears to be the guy that I'm going to get the most in that range. Dylan Cease is the guy that I am getting the least. Maybe that will change on the Angels lineup when I can run it. Let's talk offenses here. White Sox are 6th in ownership. Angels are 9th. Neither one of these teams are grading out all that well in our top stack tool. Do you want to go here for offense? Because the park works. The pitchers are obviously talented.
Yeah, the park works. Tough matchups for both sides. We just got the White Sox lineup. It is entirely right-handed with the exception of Andrew Benintendi leading off. But Detmers has struck righties out 30% of the time, only a 121 expected ISO, 310 expected WOBA. So even though they're going to have the platoon advantage for most of the lineup, it's not like it's not like he struggles with right-handed bats. You still have some good hitters. Luis Robert stands out in particular at 4,900, but tough to really want to get there. It's also like 70 degrees in LA. So the park's good, but you have so many games, where it's 85, 90 degrees today. Cooler weather there, not as great for hitting. And then for the Angels, you do have Trout, you have Ohtani. So I do prefer getting to them. They have a higher implied run total as well, but kind of difficult to stack because they only have 8 hitters in the player pool. You can't use their number 5 hitter, Mike Moustakas, at least on DraftKings. He hasn't been added since leaving the Rockies and joining the Angels while the Angels were in Colorado. So that, makes it a little bit less appealing. It's just like when Ohtani pitches.
Sure. Oh, can you imagine if it happened in the same day?
Oh, yeah, that would suck.
7 hitters. Yeah, not a lot of ownership coming in here. This is probably like the sneak game to go for hitting. If nobody's going to get any ownership on a 6 gamer, like all of a sudden you get on the opposite side of one of these pitchers with a shit ton of ownership.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like it's basically the same play as the Brewers against Verlander, except for Cease is better than Verlander.
Yep. I have basically no White Sox. I have basically no Angels. I have very little Detmers and very little Cease. We'll see what happens when all these lineups get fixed, but that doesn't feel like the right idea.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't really do anything about it, but I would like to be getting to this game in general, just given how cheap Detmers and Cease are. And that the park is good for hitting. It's hard to see like some part of this game not being useful a high percentage of the time.
I totally agree. When I look at this, and you obviously know where I'm coming from here, but there's no scenario where I want none of the pitching, none of either pitcher, none of the hitting, and none of I've got none of all of it, and something's going to be decent, I would imagine.
Right. And there's such high ceilings.
They're not bad either.
Right. That's it. It's not like you're talking about a spot where it's like, oh, well, we have 2 pitchers that don't strike anybody out. Maybe they'll pitch well, but they're still not going to score a ton of fantasy points. Like you have massive ceilings from Detmers and Cease.
Yeah. Yeah,
and from the offenses.
No part of me is going to be surprised if Detmers or Cease goes out there and strikes out 8 or 9 dudes and has like a really nice fantasy score. And no part of me is ever going to be surprised that one of the teams scored 8 or 9 runs and it just worked. So this game is going to be a thorn in my side. Not the best late night hammer I could ever find. I'm excited to do this little read here because it's the one time where you will not get the direct credit. But if you're interested, folks, signing up for the MLB Sims tool, I think, is one of the best things that you can do in the industry right now. It is going to be $180 a month. I know that sounds like a big number. We've got a lot of Sims content out there. Adam does videos. Greg does videos. I believe Neil does them as well, or that could just be lineup generator. I'm not sure. Sign up for lineup generator anyway if you were looking for something at a lower tier. But this is a new tool where it's not like just Fantasy Cruncher or even just our lineup generator. You're providing an input of lineups. We are then simulating those lineups against each other and providing ROI numbers on a lineup level, on a player level, on an individual player level. It's a lot of granular detail, but it is something that has existed on the back end for a lot of people for a long time, and now it is in the public sphere. Adam's videos are absolutely killing it. I hate saying that out loud, but I'm saying that so that you guys know this. If you click the link in the description of this video, that will be incredibly helpful to us, and Adam will not get the same amount of credit. And I don't know about you guys, but I think we're all on the same page here that no one wants Adam to get credit for anything positively.
You realize chat likes me infinitely more than you, right?
No, chat doesn't like you at all. What are you talking about? It's clearly me over you. What do you mean? This isn't you put a poll up. I'm winning 80-20. Not even close. Jordan, put the poll up. Who does chat like more, me or Adam? By the way, chat, this shouldn't have anything to do with your decision point, but maybe we'll do a giveaway if the right person wins. This is easy. I mean, this shouldn't even be a discussion, honestly. It's comical. All right, I will run away with this. Sorry, guys. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to shame Adam like this on the show, but apparently a message needs to be sent. So you guys should all sign up for the Sims tool using the link in the description. Give Adam zero satisfaction whatsoever. Now, you and I should close out this one. Mariners and Nats, 4.7 run implied total for the Mariners, 3.1 for the Nats. Luis Castillo on the hill for Seattle. Trevor Williams going for Washington. 28% ownership coming into Castillo. He is 11K. He's just like a man on an island today, but clearly a good matchup from a talent perspective. Not a lot of strikeouts in the Washington lineup, though.
No, I mean, it's a tough lineup to strike out, but it is a good pitcher's park. It's a bad lineup in general. Lowest implied run total on the slate, just shy of 3 for Washington. Castillo is the best non-Spencer Strider pitcher on the slate. He looks great. You're getting a $1,600 discount off of Strider. So certainly very, very happy to get to Castillo where I can.
I don't have much here because I'm just getting to more Strider. How do you want to balance Strider Castillo with Strider pulling in, let's call it 1.5 times the ownership, something in that neighborhood? Do you see it that way too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really you're going to prefer getting to Strider. He projects better, but it's just going to come down to what you're doing with the bats. You do sort of just have two distinct tiers where we have Strider projected for 22.8 DraftKings points. Castillo's at 19.6. So you're getting a 3-point drop there. Then the next highest is Detmers at 17.1. So again, a pretty big drop from Castillo to him. I think that the pricing just makes a lot of sense where you have Strider at a much higher price point. If you're playing cheap hitters and you can get to Strider, great, but it's not like it's a bad consolation prize to only be able to get Luis Castillo.
John Sy 2000. Candelario is my contrarian bat today. Found my burner account in YouTube Jets.
Oh man, this is embarrassing for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is fake news bullshit right here. I mean, these votes don't count. This entire situation, this entire poll is rigged. Trevor Williams?
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, throw him in that. He's in the bucket with Williamson and Colin Ray. Good pitcher's park. There are some strikeouts in the Mariners lineup, but Trevor Williams is pretty bad, and the Mariners have plenty of power in this lineup.
Well, let's talk about those Mariners bats. They are 7th in top stack, 7th in top value, but miraculously 2nd in ownership. How do you feel about Seattle? Because I think they look fantastic.
Yeah, I think you look really good too. The only negative here is the park. Kind of similar to the Orioles, where they look good, still a 5-run implied total, but if they were playing somewhere else, if they were playing like in DC, for example, they would look even better. But Williams struggles with power. In the past, he's typically had major issues with left-handed power and been better against righties. This year, kind of just giving it up to everybody. He does have a 23% strikeout percentage against righties compared to 12.5% against lefties. So you still get the advantage there for left-handed bats. Makes Kelenic look good, makes Cal Raleigh look good. But in terms of power numbers, 220 expected ISO to righties, 217 to lefties, pretty similar there. So getting to Rodriguez, France, Hernandez, Suarez is going to be pretty appealing as well.
Invalidated the entire poll. We'll revisit this in the future. As an aside, just sign up using the link in the description. Don't ever use Adam's stuff. What do you want to do? Nats bats. They are relatively cheap, but they are the least owned team today, and they should be.
Yeah, I think they should be. Like, I'd rather get to the Tigers. Heaney gives up more power than Castillo does. Yeah, like the Nats, they're cheap. If you get some like Luis Garcia, I know he was showing up a little bit in the Sims tool for me earlier, but this is, I think, the least appealing team on the slate.
Rank the game.
Castillo, Mariners, Williams, Nats.
There it is. Favorite stacks for today?
Baltimore, Seattle. Reds.
Yeah. I think those are my 3 as well, so I don't have much to add. I am getting to the Brewers at relatively low ownership. If it goes wrong for Verlander, I'm happy to be there, but so that is happening. Favorite pitchers?
Strider, Castillo, Detmers.
It's going to be Strider, Heaney for me, and then I'm falling off a cliff, but honestly, I don't have a problem picking anybody in that Verlander, Heaney, Cease, Detmers. Like, whatever shows up of those 4 guys, I'm totally cool with. Well, that's going to do it, folks. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. Thank you to Jordan for producing. Thanks to Adam, I guess, for being here. Thanks to PrizePicks for being the sponsor. And thanks to my internet for holding up for an entire hour. I would like it to hold up for at least 1 more hour, or at least give me 15 minutes right before lock. And then at that point in time, I don't really care what happens. I don't care if it exists while I sleep. Good luck, everybody. Stick around for MLB Live Before Lock. We'll talk to you later.
Well, it's that time of week again, and we've got some monster new inductees into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. A huge week across the board, and we're going to go over all of them. And all you got to do to get involved, download that Stokastic avatar. It's stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. $120 value, more than anything, really. Crowning achievement of your life. Get inducted right here into the Hall of Fame. We do a new one every single Monday, and let's get it started with a huge win from Lyle Peel. Took this down the lineup. Let me rephrase how he wanted to say it. Took this down with the lineup generator. Love to see it. $4.48 for the first week, by the way. First takedown ever. LP Focus, $10,000 in the Mighty Micro Mini Max. Congratulations, Lyle. That's awesome, especially seeing that you did it with the lineup generator. And this made me even more excited. Mitchell Kemp, literally my first day with the Stokastic MLB Sims tool. See, we got tools for everybody. Hit my biggest MLB DFS hit. Great product, already paying off. Thanks for the great content. Congrats, Mitchell. And notice, right under Lyle, right under LP Focus in that same contest for a sweet $5,000. And Ryan Carter took down the relay throw tonight, single bullet. Y'all are the best site out there, in my opinion. $50,000 for Letus Brutalis, single entry into the relay throw. Barry Watts, second week using the Sims tool. First 5-figure win, $10,000 in the 80K ball four. Congrats, man. That's awesome. $10,500. Second place to Barry Watts. And Adam Scherer back on the board, baby. MLB is for masochists. Golf is easy. $750 in the $20,000 in the showdown. Round 1, I believe, for Adam. $20,000 to our boy Ship My Money. And Miami Heat, 4 more till history. Well, that name's got to be changed, huh? But anyway, Bama Jones, congrats, man. Had a little stat correction. First place, $1,200 in the Wednesday MLB Bunt single entry contest. Big win there. And Greg Ehrenberg, our own Greg Ehrenberg, lost out on a chance for first when the Angels pinch hit for Trout, but it was still a solid night with some help from, believe it or not, the MLB Sims tool. It's Stokastic.com. $5,000 for our boy Greg. And Keith, thanks again for the awesome tools. $300. Second place in the 6K solo shot. Congrats, Keith. XFL expert or El Cuatro Loco 88 UFC 10K flying knee takes home $1,000 and says, if I do nothing else in DFS, can at least say I won a contest that had Alex Baker and Greg Ehrenberg. Next up, we got our boy David. Thank you, EMAC, for your top plays article. 50 cents in the 1,500. That article is free, by the way, on the site every single day. Congratulations, David Colasanto. And then 2 more. MF Chooch. Chooch 724 just says his name with an exclamation point. $1,500. Little NASCAR action here. Congrats to you. And Jason Sweden, 25 cents in the 42.50. Thanks for the help and all you guys do. Cheers in the MLB Showdown 2K quarter jukebox. Remember, want to get up on the board, get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, get inducted in the Hall of Fame by yours truly right here. Download the avatar at Stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. And join us right here in the Stokastic Hall of Fame. See you back here for the next one.
What is happening, everybody? It's time for another MLB Live Before Lock. It is myself and Mr. Eric Lindquist breaking down tonight's 6-game slate. We're going to talk about DraftKings. We're going to talk about FanDuel, build some lineups in the Stokastic MLB lineup generator. We're going to answer your guys' questions if you have any of them and you're in our Discord channel, at me, and we can answer those questions. And of course, above all, we're going to have a good time here. We're sponsored by PrizePicks. We'll be talking about them a little bit as well. Eric, what is happening? How was your weekend?
Jordan Klein's having a tough day. I hope he's okay over there. I just want him to be all right.
To do something.
Oh, no. Dude, what? Dude, bro, chill life, not this work life, bro. Dude, chill, bro.
Jordan worked 25 hours. He's on the schedule for 25 hours this week, which he's never even heard of before. He was asking us before. He thinks this is a labor violation. He's like, guys, I have to do this entire show. And then I also have to make the YouTube event for it before. And so he starts crying before the show starts.
Yep.
It's insanity back here.
Yeah. His aunt's on the picket lines, I'm sure, for the Writers Guild, absolutely just tearing it up. And so Jordan is like, you know what, bro, dude, we need to unionize. It's going to be the Dude Bro Chill Unionized Club thing, dude. And so I don't know when we're going to be firing that up, but it sounds like he's got a movement going here. I'm nervous.
Jordan did go to the march for the writers union, and then he got really disappointed because he just showed up for the weed, and then he found out there was an actual cause there, and then he left. He came back home, was like, I guess I have to work now.
Yeah, that's where all the cool kids were hanging out. I tried to get a picture with John Hamm. I saw him out there, the WB. I couldn't find him, so I went home.
You think that's what he does? He shows up to the picket march and just goes, "Hey, you guys ready to start? Ready to go?"
Hey, have I seen you in something? Cool. Let's get a photo. It'd be cool. Dude, do you want to buy me dinner tonight?
Countdown. 5, 4. Yeah, so Jordan's having a good day. Always excited to see him on Monday because I don't see Jordan on the weekend. So you get to catch up and we find out just all of the terrible things that have happened to Jordan Klein over the last couple of weeks, which are never all that significant. Like sometimes Jordan's issues are like, my aunt had a really expensive couch delivered. Like, oh, cool. That was difficult for you.
I'm so sorry, dude. Like, I don't know. I think I lost. I scuffed up a sneaker. I just got these like Jordan retros. They're really sick, bro. And somebody stepped on my shoe. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
We've got, by the way, people are wondering how Jordan takes the jokes pretty well. He's in the back here laughing. He's having a good time. He's probably about to get up to go to the bathroom. But for now, Jordan seems to be enjoying it. He's laughing. He's having a good time, taking a sip of his water. But why not talk about some baseball too while we're here, Eric? And by the way, people, not only do we have our YouTube channel, don't forget about our podcast channel as well. So if you ever want to catch one of our shows and maybe you miss them live or a strategy show in the morning, go subscribe to our podcast channel and give us a 5-star review when you get a minute to do that. Baseball show tonight, though. Talking about the pitchers, we have to start by talking about Spencer Strider, who's been pretty inconsistent over the last month. Some really good starts, some really bad starts for Strider. Massive, massive popularity. He's projected for right around 50% ownership on DraftKings, right around 40% ownership on FanDuel. So relative to his ownership, Eric, how are you going to handle him in large field tournaments?
I mean, why did the Twins have to roll out a lineup without anybody good, too? I mean, I know Buxton got dinged up, and so they're just kind of being preventative there. And no Royce Lewis. This is just such a bad lineup on the other side. You're looking at everybody. Everybody in the entire lineup has north of a 20% K rate. Most of them have north of a 24% K rate, starting with Correa, so above league average. That's 7 of 9 guys. I mean, even though he's been inconsistent, I mean, this is maybe a spot where you could have some hedge twin stacks getting to them. I'm sure that's something you like to do, go up against the most popular pitcher and find some stacks. But God, this lineup is so bad for the Twins. I mean, we have Solano, who I still am not bought in, even though the numbers have been good. The StatCast numbers, especially 301 expected batting average, 373 xWOBA. We have Willie Castro, Ryan Jeffers, Edward Julian. I mean, come on, Twins. What are we doing here? It's my team, but I don't see how you don't still have a ton of interest in Spencer Strider. It's simply like, how much Luis Castillo do you want to bite off? How much to the mid-range do you want to go with only 6 teams on the slate? I don't find it all that prohibitive to get to a lot of Strider today. I think I'm probably just going to be doing that.
Yeah, I was running some lineups earlier in the day. If you guys checked out the videos that I posted on Twitter, and Strider was my second most rostered pitcher, so I was a little bit underweight to the field, but that was before the Twins lineup came out. And it's not like his ownership has moved all that much since the lineup has come out. He's still really popular, but he was before. I think if my memory serves correct, I think he was projected for 47% ownership. Then the Twins lineup came out and went to 49%. But I certainly like Strider more now that the lineup has come out. I'm probably not going to be all that different from the field if I was playing 150 lineups. When I ran it before, I think I had 32 or 33% of Strider, right around that 30% mark. It's hard to get way overweight to a 50% mark. Like, it's hard to be like, hey, I'm going to have 90% of Spencer Strider today. But the 50%, I think, is a fairly reasonable ownership to have. And also, if you're playing in cash games, the biggest no-brainer of the entire slate.
Yep. Biggest no-brainer, period, end of story, first player you click on.
Yep. Totally agree there. And I don't think I'm going to roster him in single entry just because I think he's going to be like 90% owned. I'd rather go a little bit different with my pitchers, but still with that in mind, I'm not going to be stacking against him today.
See, for me, I was kind of contemplating it, like the $12, some $44 lineup, the power rally and stuff. Like, I thought I was going to get away from it. I'm finding a lot of paths to get to Strider and Castillo and not really running into a lot of issues. I mean, the big fade then that you're running into, Texas, Atlanta, your 2 massive implied totals that aren't affected by weather. Cincinnati, Baltimore, I think it's going to be okay, but it's something I'm definitely paying attention to. If you end up losing that game, there are 5 games, and I don't know, the pitching gets a little bit hairy in the mid-range. I know Heaney and Cease are going to be big allocation guys. Detmers is probably the person that I'm going to be getting to the most out of the mid-range, but I think it just makes sense to get to Strider and lock in that and get different with your stacks, especially if you're not going to be playing the popular stacks. Getting to more Strider, I think, just makes it makes a little bit more sense for me.
We've got some super chats here to answer, and then we'll talk about in lineups that maybe don't have Strider, who else may have roster, who we want to pair with Spencer Strider. First, shout out to Malukar, who gifted out 5 YouTube subscriptions. So Malakar, we appreciate you and thank you for that. Ryan Renebaum. Ryan wants to know, can we get some hot tiers takes? Yes, sir.
Oh, I've got it pulled up. I built some lineups today for tiers.
Oh my!
I'm ready. I know.
Came prepared for.
I know.
Tier 1. I think this is a pretty. So there's one tier that's fairly outrageous to me, but starting with tier 1, it is Ronald Acuna for me.
Same.
Ronald Acuna, we're going to be able to make some Brave stacks in here. And this is not the same Braves smash spot as we've seen recently, because they're actually going up against a decent starting pitcher in Sonny Gray. But something that's kind of nice about the Braves because of the matchup against Sonny Gray, I still think the same upside is there, but they're not all that popular. We'll talk a little bit more about them once.
Did you see Matt Olson home run odds over the weekend?
No, I did not. What were they?
Plus 165, plus 175. We were back to Aaron Judge circa 2022 with Matt Olson in Cincinnati this last weekend. It was wild. I just started laughing because I think he homered in 2 of the 3 games too. It was just like, oh, okay. Why not? Go ahead, Matt. You're projecting out somebody to hit 80 home runs in those situations over any kind of a sample size. It's like, wow, this is wild.
And with that said, Matt Olson in tier 2, he's my favorite guy. Is he yours?
Yes.
Correlates nicely with Acuna as well. So something I've been doing when I build lineups for tiers in Fantasy Cruncher, I build groups of all the teams together and give the players a boost when they're together. So if you guys are building out a bunch of lineups, I think that's a good way to go about it because it'll really help you get to some more correlated tiers lineups. Tier 3, I have it really close in between a few guys here. Pete Alonso, Ozzie Albies, Adley Rutschman. Of the 3 of them, I think Pete Alonso, if it was just in a vacuum, would be my guy. But considering we already went to Acuna in tier 1 and Matt Olson in tier 2, that is me leaning a little bit more towards Ozzie Albies, even though I did get to slightly more of Alonso in the build I made.
That's exactly my take.
Tier 4, I don't understand how Julio Rodriguez is here.
I don't either.
Julio Rodriguez in tier 4 makes no sense to me. The other guys in the tier, like Matt McClain, is having a really nice rookie year for the Reds. Do you mean to tell me he's in the same tier as Julio Rodriguez? It's Julio for me.
Yep. Bet Luis Robert, though, plus 400 FanDuel. Homer.
What did you say the number is?
Luis Robert, it's like plus 400.
All right. And
in Angel Stadium, top 6, I believe it's number 6 in baseball for home runs so far this season. And it's park adjusted. We're not talking just because it has Trout and Ohtani there.
Yep, I'll pull up right now to see what the best odds are. I'll head on over to OddsShopper actually and do it as we're going through the rest of the tier. So I'll be able to give everybody definitive what the best available line is for Luis Robert to homer today. But in the meantime, tier 5, this one is really spread out. I think there's a lot of good viable options to go to. So why not go with Travis d'Arnaud, who correlates with all the other Braves we have?
Yes.
And now tier 6. Tier 6, I am landing on Anthony Santander the most. If you want to correlate your tier 6 with Julio Rodriguez, you could also go to Cal Raleigh or Jared Kelenic. I don't really have a strong lean between them, but I do get to a lot more of Santander than any other player in this tier.
How about the demotion for Jared Kelenic down there to 7 today? Pretty noticeable difference. They had Julio and him going back and forth, depending on if they were facing a righty or a lefty. They have him buried to 7 against Trevor Williams today. So probably takes him further down the board for me. I would be going Cal Raleigh or Anthony Santander.
The best current line on Luis Robert to homer. By the way, I've never really gotten definite. Is it supposed to be Luis Robert or Luis Robert?
I've heard some people say on telecast both, and that's what's so annoying, but it's Robert. I've gotten the definitive thing from a person who said it's Luis Robert, and they're going to lose their mind if I ever say Robert again.
Who is that person? Was it just
my
some random
friend
person?
Thomas? He's a dick. It's fine.
So when there was these videos released in the offseason, it was everybody saying how to pronounce their name. And I was really excited about this because I was like, oh, cool. Some players whose names I'm not totally sure about. Yep. I'm going to listen to the video. Now, here's the problem. What a bunch of teams did is they recorded it in the locker room with other people talking in the background, which makes it really hard to hear. And then Luis Robert or Robert, I'll go with you and we'll say Luis Robert, has such a thick accent that I couldn't understand what the hell he was saying anyway.
Yep. Luis Robert. Yeah.
Tough scene. Anyway, the best.
Eric, roll the R. No, Robert is not correct. That's what I was just told. That was the most annoying. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
The best odds for him to homer today. Plus 460 at Unibet, plus 460 at Bet Rivers. He is currently plus 420 at FanDuel, plus 370 at DraftKings. Probably wouldn't play him at plus 370 at DraftKings.
No.
What are the shortest odds you would be comfortable playing him to homer at?
I'll tell you the exact number. I would be comfortable playing him plus 380. So there you go.
So that would make
he's facing a lefty, pretty noticeable bump, and then ballpark upgrade. I think this is a gigantic. I almost put a lot of White Sox on the card, but because Jake Berger's going completely berserk, his number's a little inflated. Give me Luis Robert at that number.
He's plus 420 at FanDuel. He's plus 425 at Bet365. So there's definitely some places you can get above that threshold that Eric gave out right there. But anyway, thank you very much for the super chat, Ryan Rennebaum. And then one more super chat here from Sotex. Sotex is saying producer labor laws require mandatory potty breaks. All right. It's good to know.
Well, too bad. He's not produced. Are you in the Producers Guild, Jordan Klein? Get back to work.
I've never seen him do work in my entire life.
Yeah, no. Normally it's
and then he just goes and does other shit.
He just walks around, like makes fucking leftover macaroni grill.
I would be Jordan. What's the grossest thing you've ate while producing a show?
You think he eats? Oh, hot Cheetos. Okay, I was gonna say the number of times you've probably ate peasant food in your life are about 4. Yeah. If it's not $100, don't make Jordan even walk across the street.
Jordan looks like he regularly eats Lucky Charms for dinner.
What? No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I know I've spent so much time with Jordan now in my life that it's like, I know he likes the finer things in life. I think if he saw a box of Lucky Charms that was unopened on the street, he wouldn't go down to pick it up. It's like Bill Gates with a $20 bill. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's negative EV for him to reach down to pick up the bill because you make more money doing other stuff. Jordan, what's your favorite cereal?
What I tell you? What did I tell you, Greg? You're such a. I mean, Jordan, that's so incredible because I know that that's true. That's so insane.
Never in your entire life, you never in your entire life eaten cereal.
No, dude, he only eats the finest things in life. I'm telling you, you go to a steakhouse with this guy, you leave a changed man.
Well, yeah, because he spends all your money and doesn't pick up the bill, and then you're poor.
You'll leave a poorer man too.
There we go. All right, I got to go out to one of these dinners with Jordan sometime.
It's really fun until it's over.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the pitchers. We had already talked about Spencer Strider. He's the most important pitcher on the entire slate. The pitcher ownership is super spread out behind him, though, Eric. So if we've got Spencer Strider on a 6-game slate right around 50% ownership, it doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for everybody else. So here's what ends up happening. Verlander, 31%. Cease, 23%. Detmers, 33%. Heaney, 24%. Luis Castillo, 25%. All of these pitchers behind Strider, super close in ownership. So outside of Strider, who is your next favorite pitcher with all these guys grouped so tightly together?
So Reed Detmers, we have as the second highest owned pitcher on DK. I'm kind of looking around some spots. I'm not sure if that ends up being the case at 7,300. He does face the White Sox. I just talked about how Luis Robert, again, betting a little bit different than we're talking about from the DFS perspective here. He gives you a lot of salary savings off of the Castillo Strider tier. Verlander's the one that I'm not getting to like at all. And I'm a little bit nervous about it because it is against Milwaukee. It would, for all intents and purposes, be a good spot. But the K rate is just noticeably different than that of what we're looking at with Cease and with Detmers. I think at that kind of a number, I'm more happy to just undercut the field on him as opposed to these other players. But I mean, right now it's Strider 1, Detmer for me, just skipping Verlander entirely. I'm not sure that there's going to be a whole lot that changes that between now and lock. I really like getting to Dylan Cease. He's the guy that I think if I could just manually boost somebody and give more to, it would be Dylan Cease. It's obviously a scary spot against the Angels, but it's also Dylan Cease, who I think his stuff is starting to come back. We're seeing some quality starts. We're starting to see well, not the ground ball rate. That would be great to see to come along for the ride, but the K rate has just been dominant over the course of the last month. Basically, since the calendar flipped over, at least six Ks in his 4 starts in this month. I think that continues here against the Angels. It's just simply not giving up runs, and he's done that really effectively this month as well. Hasn't given up more than 2 earned in a single start. So I like the stuff. We've seen some positive trends here in terms of his velocity and other things. Dylan Cease is. I'm just shocked I'm not getting to him more.
So one thing I'm going to agree with you. To me, it's really easy to find who my least favorite pitcher of this group is. And it's Verlander, because he's been absolute dog shit this year. He's 40 years old. The velocity's down. The strikeouts haven't been there. I know he got a slow start to the year and he was hurt. So maybe he's going to build himself up over the course of the year. But at least to this point, he's not been good while he's on the mound. And 31.4% ownership for him, it's a lot. It also kind of makes me like Milwaukee as a leverage stack also, if Verlander is going to be that popular. So he's my least favorite. And then if I'm going through the rest of the pitchers, the ones I'm leaning towards the most are Castillo and Andrew Heaney. The reason being Castillo, I think is a really good pivot off of Strider on the high end. Like, it's not that crazy to me to think that Castillo could outscore Strider. And as Strider's ownership goes up and up and up, Castillo's comes down. Earlier in the day, when I was looking at the ownership projections and building lineups, Castillo was close to 40% owned this morning. And now he's come all the way down to 24%. Part of that has to do with how weak the Twins lineup is, but I don't think Strider outscores him 2-1. And his ownership, if it's going to keep going down as we get closer to lock. So I like Luis Castillo. And then Andrew Heaney, a decent matchup against the Detroit Tigers. And he's always been this pitcher who his good starts are exceptional and his bad starts are terrible, which is kind of perfect for GPP. He's moderately priced at 8K on DraftKings. So Heaney and Castillo, those are the ones that I think have the most GPP upside. And by the way, I'm with you on Dylan Cease. Like, to me, Cease and Heaney are in a lot of ways pretty similar. I just lean a little bit more towards Heaney because he's at home.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm playing 50 lineups. If I had more lineups, I think I would just find myself getting to more Cease on the back end of those lineups. But I think it's tough to play everybody on this slate. And I think Strider's just, I'm going to say flat out unfadable because of the K rate. Now, how much you want to get to him, that's the conversation. If you want to be a little bit below, I think that makes sense. I think Luis Castillo is a fantastic pivot, but if we're just looking at pure projection, I mean, you're still looking at Strider because of this dog shit Twins lineup. He is projecting out so much better. We've got 4 fantasy points here between the two over on DK, which is a pretty noticeable difference. They've got comparable win percentages. So, I mean, if you talk about FanDuel, maybe we could get over there and have a little bit of a difference of opinion. But I think as it stands right now, Strider, it's just really hard for me to imagine I get below the field on. And that's just fewer lineup spots for other pitchers to jump in. And Detmers, I really like what we're starting to see out of him as well. He's a little bit cheaper than that of Cease. And within 8%, I'm not really splitting hairs there. Pretty positive I'm going to be overweight to Detmers and White Sox stacks today.
Trick question in YouTube chat. Spencer Smith wants to know, Greg, what is Eric's thong color today? Jesus. Please. He doesn't wear underwear.
Why would I
free
do
ball
that?
in it? Commando. Absolutely clown question from Spencer Smith in the YouTube chat. Easy answer. No undies today. The other part of pitching that I think we should talk about. So we've got all these pitchers pretty condensed. You got, Strider by himself and all those other guys we mentioned grouped together in terms of ownership. If you are playing any other pitcher today, they're massively contrarian. If you run through the rest of the pitchers, Sonny Gray project for 1% ownership, Matt Boyd 4.8, Cole Irvin 4%, Colin Ray 1%, Trevor Williams 2%, Brandon Williams 1%. So everybody who's not one of the pitchers we talked about before is sub 5% owned. If you are playing one of these guys, do you like one of them more than the rest, or do you hate all of the contrarian pitchers today?
I don't hate all of them. I think Sonny Gray has a spot where we could at least talk about him. I know you talked about the velocity dip. We have a couple of underlying issues with it, but it's so contrarian now at 1% that I think that he's at least somebody that is in play for me. I have 5% of, I think, in my last run. Let me find it. 6% of in my last run. And then Matt Boyd is the other guy that I can definitely make a case for against Texas. These are both terrifying spots, going against Atlanta, going against Texas. But if either of the chalk stacks fail, what's the most likely path to it? You see the pitcher succeed in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they can put up a score that can be comparable there. Matt Boyd, we're starting to see those hard hit numbers come down. We're starting to see the K rate come back up. Now, it's not back to those numbers that they should have traded him at in 2020, 2021, but 23.7% on this slate. He's going up against Texas that definitely has some bats, but between Young, Garcia, Duran, there are a couple of strikeouts. Mitch Garver with a 31% K rate. There's at least some strikeouts to be had there. So Matt Boyd is definitely somebody that's sneaking into lineups too.
He was more so for me earlier in the day. Here's what has changed. When I was running lineups earlier and looking at some of the ownerships and whatnot, the Texas Rangers were projected for about 14% ownership as a team. That number has come down from 14% to 9.6%, which that individually doesn't mean that we expect the results to be different for Matt Boyd, but he looks different to me as a contrarian pitching option. We're not getting quite the same leverage because all of a sudden the Rangers have gone from a team that we're projecting to be one of the most over-owned teams on the slate to actually under-owned. So I like getting the Texas Rangers as a stack. I do agree with you. If I'm playing one of these contrarian pitchers, the answer is Matt Boyd. I just don't like him as much as I did earlier in the day because the ownership has come down on Texas and I'm not getting that same kind of leverage. Relative to the other options here, it's hard for me to want to go to Sonny Gray with kind of limited strikeout upside on the road in Atlanta. And then I look at the other options like Cole Irvin, terrible. Colin Ray typically doesn't work all that deep into games. Trevor Williams, dog shit. Brandon Williams also not all that great on the road in Baltimore. So all things put together, I like Matt Boyd the most. If you guys are playing an otherwise chalky lineup, I think Boyd is the one who makes the most sense. Is there anything else you like at contrarian pitching?
No. I mean, Colin Ray, no. Trevor Williams, no. Cole Irvin, no. Brandon Williams, definitely no. Yeah, that's about it. I'm 50 lineups. I don't need to get crazy off the board. I thought if anybody was going to show up, maybe Cole Irvin at 5K showed up simply for salary purposes. That is not the case.
We got a question in our Discord channel. This one is coming from Just Lock. So our guy Justin here wants to know, what is the weather concern for the Baltimore game? Do we think it plays? And then he wants to know what our favorite stack of the day is. So we'll answer these individually. Eric, are you concerned about any of the weather to the point where it's impacting your lineups or causing you to alter your ownership in any way?
Yes, I'm worried about the weather in Cincy, Baltimore. I'm paying attention to it, but I am legitimately worried about it.
Yeah, so I would say that it's on the radar for me, not intending any kind of pun or anything, but it's a game that I think is going to play. I'm not that concerned about it canceling.
My concern is that they're the two most popular offenses on the slate, and there's weather. So this goes one of two ways. People who look at the weather, they drastically react because there's actually, wherever you get your weather, and we mostly get it from the same places, people, you're going to be reacting to some kind of information there, and you can see there being a dip. I would really want to be overweight to Baltimore and Cincinnati if I thought people were hitting eject on it. The inverse is true, though. It seems like right now in our projections where we have ownership through the roof, yes, they're the two top stacks in the top stacks tool, but I'm just going to be getting to a ton of Texas and Atlanta currently if this is going to be the way that things stand. I also have Angels and White Sox. I like both of the pitchers in that game. I like both of the stacks in that game. Not hard to get over the field, but it might turn into something where I drastically undercut Baltimore, Cincinnati here, just because the chance, even if it's 10%, I think that being underweight to both stacks that are over owned as it is probably the right path. And then maybe taking it to an extreme and hoping that something happens.
The chance of rain is so low in terms of being sustained throughout the night when I was looking at the weather.
But it's inclement weather, right? That's the other thing of it.
Well, it's like a 15% chance of rain.
Okay.
And it's also not supposed to be where even if rain pops up, it's not something that's necessarily going to be throughout the entire night. So I think the chances of this game actually being canceled are really, really low. I'm paying attention to it. It's not a 0 to me, but it's not enough for risk where I'm taking on my player pool, altering any kind of exposures to it.
Didn't say that.
The other part of Justin's question, which we're going to be talking more about stacks in a second here. So just so you guys know, here's what's coming up. We're going to answer Justin's question. We're each going to give out our favorite stack of the day. And then Jordan's going to pull up the lineup generator. We're going to build DraftKings and FanDuel lineups on the show. And then we'll talk about PrizePicks, our sponsor of the show. And we'll find some props that we like for PrizePicks purposes. But Justin wants to know our favorite stack. So let's answer his question. If you were building one lineup tonight, Eric, who would you be stacking in that lineup?
So I have 3 GPP lineups that I have built by hand, and then I have my 50 that I'm playing in GPP stuff. But If I had to play one right now from the top stacks tool, and out of the three that I've built, Milwaukee would probably be it.
I think I'm going to agree with you. It's mostly driven by two things. And one of them is that Justin Verlander's been terrible this year relative to expectations. There's worse pitchers on this league. He's not Trevor Williams bad, but he's been much worse than what expectations are. And he is still projecting for a good amount of ownership. He's projected to be the third most popular pitcher on the entire slate. And the Brewers are currently projected for 4.4% ownership. For reference, the Nationals are projected for 3% ownership, and the Nationals at 3.4. So you're not even getting much lower ownership on the Brewer or much higher ownership on the Brewers compared to the Twins going up against Spencer Strider, the Nationals against Luis Castillo. The Brewers are going way overlooked relative to the odds of success on this slate. So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to be going with the Milwaukee Brewers, and it is currently the team that I think I'm going to be playing in single entry. I was considering the Twins earlier in the day, but then their lineup came out and it was so terrible that even I can't go down that route. Like I've been playing like the Oakland A's against decent pitchers in single entry. I can't do the Twins tonight against Strider though. So I think that the Milwaukee Brewers are the team it looks like I'm going to land on.
Yeah, it feels like the right spot. I mentioned it before. I'm obsessed with Atlanta and Texas. I think that they're two teams I'm just going to get to absolute tons of as well. LA and Chicago seem to be teams that I'm getting to a ton as well. Baltimore, Cincinnati undercutting purely because of, even if it's 5%, 10% weather issue, and then just they're the two most popular teams on the slate. It's kind of a no-brainer spot, but also it's two lefties on the mound in a ballpark that requires a lot of righty power. Do both teams have it? Sure, but not as much as what I think people are giving them credit for. We have Kevin Newman batting leadoff with a 29% hard hit percentage there for Cincinnati. Matt McLean, Jonathan India, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer. That's a really good 4 bats. But then it turns into Nick Senzel. Tyler Stevenson's had an atrocious season. TJ Friedel, who I can't believe he's in this lineup. And then Kirk Casale's playing catcher. So it's a weird Cincinnati lineup for me. And on the other side, Austin Hayes has been awesome this season. 484 expected slugging, getting the platoon here. But that power is so difficult in Baltimore now with the elevated fences and the pushed back fences. I'm just not going to be getting to them nearly as much as the field.
We've got a super chat here from DM Brian 007. And we did just kind of answer this question because he asked what's our favorite single entry stack. For me, the answer is still the Brewers.
Yep, Brewers. Brewers for single entry, or White Sox. That would be the other one I'd be looking at for White Sox, but I'm obviously very, very behind Reed Detmers for large field. It's just simply, if I'm looking at one lineup and trying to find leverage, I think the White Sox might make some sense too.
And then his follow-up here is that NIB high school football rules. I don't know what that means.
Very cool. O'Doyle, I got a feeling you and your whole family are going down.
NIB. Let me look this up. Is this even a real thing?
I don't
know.
Or
have we been had here in some way?
I don't know.
Oh, it's from Billy Madison.
I was going to say, I thought it was from Billy Madison, which is why I quoted Billy Madison back, but
I didn't remember there was NIB.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the super chat,
DM.
DM.
Whole family are going down.
DM Brian 007. Thank you. And also he wants to thank you, Eric Lindquist, because you knew that was a Billy Madison reference. I did not.
I did. I tried to, act. It was one of those like free rolls where it's like, even if I'm wrong, I quoted the movie, but like I was pretty positive that's what it was from.
Sharp move by you. Sharp move by you. Because either way, you made a movie reference that people enjoy. And then if not, you got the high school right. So DM Brian, thank you very much for the super chat. Jordan, let's build some lineups in the MLB lineup generator. We're going to do it for DraftKings. We're going to do it for FanDuel. O'Doyle rules also. If you guys want to sign up for the MLB lineup generator, here's an easy way to do it. Use the link below when you're signing up for the first time because you are going to get access for less than $5. And this is a tool that's just going to build lineups for you. They're going to be plus EV. In fact, we've had a number of big wins using the lineup generator recently. We had Neil Orfield himself won $1,000, came in third in the moonshot the other day. We had somebody in our Discord channel win $50,000 in the relay throw, took home first place. And then also we have our PGA lineup generator. We had In the Guard on Twitter added us and said, not a full bank, but fully made possible by the PGA lineup generator. He came in second in the PGA Albatross last week. So we won $500. And once again, you can sign up for this tool first time for less than $5 when you use the link below. And it's for more than just MLB. We also have a PGA lineup generator. We've got NFL. When that rolls around, we've got it for NBA. So come and get familiar with this, especially if you're a newer DFS player. I think this is really going to help you out a lot. But let's start with DraftKings here, Jordan, and we'll do all stack types and then make contrarian lineups for it being a 6-game slate. I'm curious to see what it is that pops up. Save some, discard some, see what ends up popping up. And then these lineups, once you guys have saved up to 20, you could upload them directly to DraftKings or FanDuel and put them right into contests. All right.
Dash coup.
Even making contrarian lineups, Eric, 80% Spencer Strider.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I have 84%. I find him completely unfadeable with this Twins lineup.
Yeah. I mean, not unfadeable, but I don't feel like I need to have like 90% of him or anything like that.
No.
I agree though. I think there's no way to get away from him to some extent. Like, even if I'm being as pessimistic as possible on Strider, like I get like 40% of him. So Strider a ton. And then behind him, we're getting to Reed Detmers, Luis Castillo. Keep scrolling down, Jordan. I want to see what other pitchers came up. There can only be Andrew Heaney, Dylan Cease. Yeah, so really spread out behind Strider. Cease, Heaney, Castillo, Detmers. We're slightly overweight to all of them. Here's what I love to see. Well underweight to Justin Verlander. Good stuff.
Good.
In terms of stacks, let's see what hitters we're getting to the most. Looks like Orioles stacks of our most roster hitters: Austin Hayes, Ramon Urias, Adley Rutschman, Anthony Santander, all popping up towards the top there. So it looks like Orioles a good team to be getting to. Also Mariner stacks in there: Julio Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez, Colton Wong is in there. All right. Good stuff. So based on this guy, Spencer Strider, no shock, top overall pitcher on the slate, a little bit mixed up behind him. Reed Detmers about even with the field. And then if you want to get overweight to some contrarian guys, pitchers that Eric and I talked about before, we came in a little bit overweight to both Andrew Heaney and Dylan Cease. And now, and Luis Castillo as well. We ended up a little bit overweight to him. Let's build out some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. And by the way, if you guys ever want to use this just to hand build your own lineups, that's another way you could do it too. Build out 20 lineups, see what ends up popping up, and then mix and match some of those players to make some of your own stacks and build lineups. Same deal. Let's do all stack types and then do contrarian lineups for FanDuel and see what pops up.
Can't wait.
Oh, I'm seeing a bunch of Mariners. Oh, a little bit less here, actually. It's just kind of my eye test as I was seeing them scroll through. Failed me a little bit, but still over on FanDuel, 79% of Spencer Strider. I do think these results would have been different earlier in the day when we were expecting the Twins to play a full lineup, but not exactly what they're doing. So Spencer Strider showing up a plenty here. And then in terms of stacks, once again, a bunch of Orioles. If you're stacking one of the chalky stacks today, Eric, would the Orioles be your go-to? It's the team we're getting the most to in the lineup generator.
Probably not. Probably not going to be for me today. If I had to get to one of the chalkier ones, I'd probably be going to Texas. We got the Mets in Seattle. I'm a little bit surprised to see the Mets in Seattle up there. Talked about on Lindy's Locks update. I went through a little bit of run creation and how in T-Mobile, I mean, they are by far the most, Seattle's just a cavern. It's a very difficult ballpark to generate runs in. It can be done by the long ball, which it plays about league average. It plays pretty neutral for home runs, but outside of that, it's just a difficult ballpark to go out and generate runs in. And I see Seattle getting as much ownership as they are for DFS purposes. I want to undercut that. Same thing with the Mets going up against Colin Reed. It's not like I like Colin or any of these Brewers there on that side of it, but that's a lot of ownership. I do like the way that lineup shows up, but you can only play one of the Vogelbach and Alonso. You can only play one of like some of the specific guys in the outfield. Like it's not my favorite stack to be getting to here. The one that I am getting to just in droves is Texas because of the positive leverage.
Yep. No, I think that totally makes sense. Earlier in the day, I was going to be underweight to the field on Texas. We brought it up briefly before, but now, it's such a big difference now that they're 9.6% owned instead of the 13, 14% they were earlier in the day. So They are now the 5th most popular offense on the DK slate, and I do think they should be a little bit more popular than that. Anything else that's standing out to you about these FanDuel lineups?
Yeah, I like. Colton Wong. Somebody even said in the chat there that they like Colton Wong for today. You can't ever like Colton Wong, especially in this ballpark, especially with some of his splits this season. He's having one of the worst years of anybody that I know the name of. Colton Wong, 25.7% hard hit percentage, 194 expected batting average. He has a 265 expected slugging. I get it where you got to play some cheapies, but I mean, there are so many different other options. I mean, specifically, you got the call up for Baltimore's finest there, Mr. Jordan Westberg, who at 2K is going to carry some weight there. But like, I would much rather just get over to the field to him, play some Urias if you want to play somebody in the 5 hole there who's sub 3K. I'm okay with that kind of chalk. If Colton Wong's showing up in a lineup generator, I want no part of Colton Wong.
And then if we keep scrolling down, I'm curious, just who do we get to the second most to pitcher behind Spencer Strider here?
Did not see.
Because we got this Luis Castillo, and that might just be all of our pitcher exposure, Luis Castillo and Spencer Strider. No, there might be one other pitcher. Somebody who's in like 4% of lineups here. Keep going. Oh, yeah, Andrew Heaney. Yeah, so primarily here on FanDuel, Strider and Castillo, and then we had Heaney pop up in one lineup. But if you're making 20 lineups and you had like 15 Strider, 4 Castillo, and then one of the other pitchers, I think that's a reasonable allocation for pitcher exposure on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
All right, let's go back into Discord and see what questions we have, if any. And we have Gangrene wants to know, how can Atlanta not be in play? I do think they're in play. I think Atlanta's in play.
Nobody said that.
Let's build out some of our favorite plays for PrizePicks. Eric, are you playing on PrizePicks tonight?
I got a couple of PrizePicks cards. Fire them up.
Okay. All right. If you guys haven't signed up at PrizePicks, sign up using the link we have below, because it is not only going to get you up to $100 on your first deposit, it is also going to get you 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinums to get access to the lineup generator, get access to our player projections, our ownership projections. And right now we're going to walk through some of our favorite options for PrizePicks. We could also use the help of our Pick'em projections. Pick'em, it's going to cover PrizePicks, Underdog, No House Advantage. Another one, you could sign up for the first time, you get access for less than $10. But what's standing out to you today, Eric, over on PrizePicks for baseball?
Yeah, so correlation is a big thing of what I do over there with Hitter Fantasy Score. You can use our projections, cross-reference with things, and it's a pretty easy process to go through. But the first one that jumps out to me, and shouldn't surprise anybody, Luis Robert is sitting there with a 7 Hitter Fantasy Score. I like Reed Detmers today for DFS purposes. I think Luis Robert at 7 with the speed power combination in a ballpark like Angel Stadium is not a great number. So we could go with him and correlate it with Eloy Jimenez, who, again, that's not going to be the best projection that we're going to have on him specifically. He's having a bit of a down year, but you know, similar to 2 years ago when he had the shoulder injury, he's always had something nagging him. And I think he's just kind of getting acquainted to hitting baseballs again. Everybody from Chicago forgot how to hit a baseball for 2 months. They're starting to get it back on track. I think Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez sitting there at 6.5. I think that's a decent way to get your card started.
Question in, I've got a prop I really like for PrizePicks. It's also correlated to what we like in DFS. But first, X Swaggy Pete wants to know, can you play 2 starting pitchers in the same lineup? You have to.
Yep. It's a rule.
Yeah. I think I know what he means. Yes, you can play 2 starting pitchers from the same game in the same lineup.
Yep, you can. Reed Detmers and Cease definitely are in the same lineups for me a lot today.
Have you seen the over-under for Justin Verlander's strikeouts on PrizePicks?
I didn't, but I saw his 36.5 pitcher fantasy score, which I kind of was like, thought about shorting that. Is it 6.5? Is that identical?
It is 6.5 at Sportsbooks at 6.5, but like minus 150 on the under.
Give me the under. We're throwing that one in. Yep.
We have him project for 5.6 strikeouts. That is my favorite play of the day over at PrizePicks. Under 6.5 strikeouts for Justin Verlander.
How about Mike Trout at 7 Hitter Fantasy Score? Is that real? That's real. It's real. Sure. My buddy just hit me up. Why is he always watching? Mike Trout, he said 7 Hitter Fantasy Score. What are you doing? And I said, I don't like you. It's fine. 7 for Mike Trout.
Yeah, give me the over on that number.
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else that stands out to you?
I mean, we talked about the Seager-Simeon correlation. You could get that going as well. If you were looking for something else to kind of get thrown into the mix there, I do think just kind of everything that we've talked about is kind of like gone towards Spencer Strider being able to find some success in some capacity. They have him at 4 hits allowed. I think that that's actually pretty efficient, which I probably don't want to be getting near in any way, shape, or form. But before they had runs where you were able to, or not runs, pitching outs, where he was listed. He is no longer listed there, where he was sitting at 17.5, and that was an absolute smash. But with him off the board, everything looks pretty efficient to me.
And now, by the way, I should mention that there is a late start in the Orioles-Reds game. Not massively concerning to me. There's a little bit of rain in the area, nothing sustained. I'm not going to be getting off that game at all. So I see some people bringing it up in chat. Nothing changes for me. Josh Gillum is saying the over-under for Trout's strikeouts is 1.5 at PrizePicks today.
Big number. He's been striking out a lot, but also that's a gigantic number for Michael. What's his middle name?
If he's going to get 5 plate appearances today, it's not like we're expecting him to have a 40% K rate. I think I like under 1.5 strikeouts even better than the 7 fantasy point score.
I think I do. I just switched it out.
Both of them are really good plays.
What a great find.
Both of them good plays, but I do like that under 1.5 strikeouts.
So less on 6.5 strikeouts for Justin Verlander. We got more on Luis Robert, hitter fantasy score, Eloy Jimenez, hitter fantasy score, Mike Trout, less on 1.5 hitter strikeouts. You probably want to add 1 or 2 more. If you guys go to OddsShopper and you see kind of the way that the card breaks down, your positive expected value goes up as you go to these 5 and 6 card payouts, as opposed to sitting on 3 and 4 plays. So keep that in mind. You generally want to try to find your path to 5 or 6 plays in a card.
And by the way, just to reiterate people in chat, I don't think you should be getting off Cincinnati, Baltimore. Like if you want to be as risk adverse as possible, you could take it out. I'm not all that concerned about it. Not all that concerned about the weather.
I kind of hope that update wasn't going to come. It could come after the game, considering I'm underweight to both. But that's why we can't have nice things.
So let's go and talk about some stacks now, Eric, because I'm going to refresh the ownership given all the recent news we have. And we have 4 teams projected for significant ownership right now. The Orioles, the Mets, the Mariners, the Reds. The Mets, the Mariners, the Reds are all projected for 12% ownership. The Orioles are projected for 15.5% ownership. If you could only stack one of these chalky offenses, Eric, and once again, those are the Orioles, the Mets, the Mariners, the Reds, which one of these 4 would you choose?
God, I'm underweight to all of them. So I don't know what to tell you. I am getting to so much Texas. This is going to be very disturbing. If I had to go to one, I think it would probably end up being the Mets by default, but I don't really want to be doing it at this ownership. Again, I've undercutted all 4 of them, it looks like, in my lineups. So I know Baltimore was jumping out on the lineup generator and the Sims tool as well. It's just a team that I've taken down a little bit also because, I mean, I'm not worried about the weather, but I don't think it's a bad thing to be running into weather on a team that's the chalkiest on the slate. So I'm probably going to just by default say the Mets.
By the way, we got a new start time for Reds Orioles. It's 7:20 is the new start time.
Oh, 15 minutes. So great.
Yeah, I always wonder, like, what are those 15 minutes supposed to do? But this seems like an absolute zero to me in terms of actual concern.
Yeah, same.
If they're pushing the start time back 20 minutes, they're raking the field a little bit longer, it'll be fine. For me, I am going to be going with earlier in the day, it was the Mariners, but the situation has changed a little bit. Their top stack odds have come down. I do like the Reds the most here. We do have them with the highest top stack odds in the top stacks tool, 14.7% chance to be the top scoring team compared to a 12% ownership. They've got a really strong matchup against Cole Irvin. And also, ownership has come down a little bit. Maybe there are people who get off because of the weather. We're seeing people talking about it in chat, like, oh my God, do I switch off? But either way, I mean, a team that is 12% projected ownership with 14.7% top stack odds, those are pretty favorable as far as the data goes on the site. Matchup against Cole Irvin is always a favorable one. He's always been a guy that gives up a lot of contact, a lot of his hard contact, a lot of balls hit in the air. He ends up giving up a lot of home runs. So give me the Cincinnati Reds as a team to get to today. You say you're going to be undercutting them though, or are you considering changing that?
I'm not going to change it.
Okay.
Undercutting them.
So then talk to me about the Texas Rangers, because that seems to me to be the team that you're going to be getting the most of them.
Yeah, by kind of leaps and bounds at this point in time. One, they're not pulling all that much ownership. Two, I think Matt Boyd has definitely shown a lot of improvements, but I don't think there's anything that you could possibly say about this Texas Rangers lineup that hasn't already been said for how much better they are. They have a 129 WRC plus against the lefties with just a 20.7% K rate. They keep rolling out the A team. It's been really good stuff there. I mean, it's just absurd what you see every single day. The one thing that always sucks is you can't play Heim and Garver in the same lineup on DK. That is a FanDuel specific type deal where I'm all right to be firing up some of that. Sometimes I will do that with Texas lineups on larger slates where, you know, Texas isn't gaining as much attention. On a 6-gamer, that's still going to be something that shows up. But I mean, Simeon has been out of control this season, so much better than last season when people were wondering, oh, did this contract? Well, those are laid to rest now at this point in time. Corey Seager's been a god amongst men, even left on left, been great. Josh Young, Adolis Garcia, they outgoing completely slept on against a lefty here in this spot. And then even 8-9 hole, you get Duran and Tavares, who are two of the better DK performers in the 8-9 hole. I think the two best performers, 8-9 and hole across all baseball teams this season in DK scoring. So what more could you ask for?
And now let's get back to the question we got in Discord, which was from Gangrene. Gangrene wants to know, how can Atlanta not be the play? All right, so he's altered a little bit. Before he was asking how we could, not want to get to Atlanta. And then maybe I just read this wrong before and I'm just revisiting it now. But he wants to know, how can they not be the play? I'll tell you how they could not be the play. By the way, I think it makes sense to be overweight to the field on the Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. But in terms of why this is not the team that I want to get to, it's just an obscene amount, is number one, I think there's a lot of offenses that are good to get to that are a little bit under-owned. The other part of this too is Sonny Gray is a solid starting pitcher, right? This isn't the easiest matchup in the world. There are absolute dog shit pitchers on the slate, right? We've got Cole Irvin, Trevor Williams. We've got, some pitchers who are not good at all. And Sonny Gray is one of the better pitchers of the entire slate. So that's really the only reason to not make the Braves the team to get to. But I think you should be overweight to them if you're buying multiple lineups.
Yep, I am just fine with that. The thing that makes it tough for me is you're running into a very expensive baseball team with Acuna, Matt Olson, both of them sitting in the 6K range because they've been ungodly. You get an expensive catcher in Travis d'Arnaud. You get expensive 6, 8, 9 hole with Azuna, Arcia, Harris, all of them over 4K. Eddie Rosario, 3,800, your cheapest bat in this lineup. And I just put them directly next to Texas, where those concerns are mitigated, where I have a 3,300 Tavares, 3,400 Duran. You get a 4K Mitch Garver. You're just getting a cheaper version of the Braves at lower ownership.
Yeah, I think the Braves, once again, decent team to get to. Not anything I want to go out of my way and be like, I need 30% of Atlanta. Not quite that much. The other question we have in here is from Einsteinium. Here's an interesting question we don't typically get. He wants to know, what is our favorite secondary stack today? So maybe not a team we're making a 5-man stack of, but let's say you had a 5-man stack and you wanted to get 2 or 3 players as another part of the lineup to fill out some correlation. Is there a team that stands out to you that makes a lot of sense maybe as a 2 or 3-man stack?
Yeah, one of my favorites all season long has been the Simeon Seager combination. I've been getting to a ton of them pretty much every single slate. This one's more difficult because you have Strider and Castillo and then a bunch of pitchers that all look about the same in that mid-range with K rates, whether it's Detmers, whether it's Cease, you get those guys. And then there's a noticeable dip in tier. And if anybody in that mid-range fails, you're probably running into a spot where you're going to need a Strider Castillo putting up some kind of a score for you. And that just makes it harder at 6K and 6,100, I believe, respectively. 61 and 6,200, respectively. That's a tough one to get to. I think the very obvious one for today's slate is looking at Baltimore. You get Austin Hayes batting first. You get Aaron Hicks batting, cleanup now at 2,600. I think a lot of people are going to be going to that type of a two-man. Urias batting 5th today. He's sitting at 2,900. I guess you could be like the third component of that stack. You get 3 cheapies like that, sub 4K, and then 2 of them sub 3K. I bet they'll show up in a lot of lineups today too.
Yeah, no, I think that makes some sense. And something else that you and I have talked about before as well, or actually, I don't know if I can't remember if I was talking about this with you or with Neil a couple of weeks ago. Don't be too concerned about the platoon disadvantage for a starting hitter, right? Especially not somebody like Corey Seager who destroys everybody.
Yeah, we talked about it with Kyle Tucker last week because I said,
okay,
don't shy away from Kyle Tucker being the only lefty in this lineup. Just jam him. And he hit a homer. It was lovely.
Especially because if it's a team you're making a secondary stack of or a full man stack or anything like that, you're looking for the starting pitcher to get out of there pretty early anyway. If your stack isn't able to get the starting pitcher out of there in 4 or 5 innings, your stack is probably dead anyway. So you should expect, if you have a left-handed batter who's starting against a left-handed starting pitcher, you don't expect them to face that lefty the entire game anyway. So don't worry all that much about it. So I do like the idea of getting to like a Corey Seager, say, for the Texas Rangers, even though he's going up against Matt Boyd there.
Yep.
And that wraps up all the questions that we have in Discord. If we're going to play a contrarian stack today, because to this point, we've really only talked about the popular stacks. We did talk about liking the Brewers. They, I think, are my favorite contrarian stack. But is there any other super low-owned stack that you're gravitating towards in any way?
Yeah, probably in that same vein of what we just talked about, 2 and 3 mans. I like the Robert Jimenez Berger combination for going up against Reed Detmers. I think along with Milwaukee, I'm looking at like my 3 main lineups that I have going, and I'm going to be doing the Detmers in 2 of them, and I'm going to be going to the White Sox combination in those 3 bats specifically. I really don't want to be playing Benintendi. It's been brutal. He's pulling a lot of ownership at leadoff left on left. I'm probably going to be passing there. Tim Anderson does make sense if you want to throw him in there, also having an abysmal season himself, but Jake Berger's not. Really like the power upside there in Anaheim for him, Robert Jimenez. So that White Sox trio, I think, is one that really stands out for me too.
Well, Jordan is taking a shitstorm today, not just from us to open the show, but it is spilled right over to YouTube chat where they are all looking for they're just saying not nice things about Jordan. I wouldn't necessarily say they're mean, but I mean, definitely getting under Jordan's skin a little bit. He's saying right here, I hate you guys. You could see that he already took his headphones off and he looks like he's getting up and walking away here. But, Sotek saying, what is the weather of Jordan's restroom? Which, listen, nothing but mudstorms. Nothing but mudstorms. It's a disaster in there. A lot of it goes to Jordan's extravagant diet that we were talking about before. It's a bad situation. At least once a week, I do a show that Jordan has to take a poop break in the middle of. At least
bro.
Once a week. Yeah. Dude, bro, poo. Dude, bro, poo. Let's see if we had any other questions in Discord. And nope, nothing else in there. Just a couple minutes left to go here, Eric. But first, I want to make sure, is there anything we haven't talked about over the course of the show that you want to make sure we bring up before the end of it?
No, it's a 6-game slate. If you can get the chalk to fail, I mean, on any given slate, it's one thing. It's going to be more pronounced today. You're looking at Cincinnati, Baltimore. They're going to pull a lot of ownership. Something tells me when we get to lock, it's going to be a lot of ownership on those 2, especially as you move up in stakes. Feel comfortable rolling to some other teams. And also, you're going to get a lot of information. Cincinnati, Baltimore is the first game of the night. If you end up having them go completely nuclear, you probably have to get off of Seattle too, because they're pulling some ownership. I would be looking at more White Sox, more Angels. Make sure you're still utilizing late swap. What is it? 3 hours almost. So 2.5 hours until the White Sox Angels game. That's Seattle and Washington game. On a short slate like this, it's even more important to be actively late swapping to reacting to how your lineups are doing.
Who do you think is most likely to ruin your lineups today? Whether it's a stack that underperforms, a spot that maybe you're underweight to that could go off and have a big night. What are you most afraid of happening?
Justin Verlander just mowing down the Brewers.
That would be suboptimal for me for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely the answer.
I'm not afraid of it though.
You're that confident he sucks at this point, like no matter what. He has Kate Upton powers, dude. Those are not things to be taken lightly. I'm always nervous of those.
Those are certain powers that are not to be trifled with. I mean, being married to Kate Upton, it's like the equivalent of your name ending in a V. You're fighting in the UFC and you have a beard without the mustache connecting it. Like, it's that kind of level of superpower. But like, I don't think that's most if I'm to talk about like what's most likely to ruin my slate, it's probably a chalky Orioles stack going up and putting up like 10 runs.
Yep. Yep. I would say Cincinnati, Baltimore going nuts and Verlander going nuts. If those two things happen together, see you tomorrow.
Final part of the show, and then we're going to close it off here. Home run pick. Who is going to hit a dong tonight, Eric?
So I gave you Luis Robert in terms of the odds. If I had to go to a long shot, well, that's Jake Berger's not a long shot again. Those two two White Sox guys just keep popping up for me. I will give you the very, very long one of Alex Kirilloff. He has been terrible in terms of power this season. There are not many Minnesota bats that I want to get to, but he is first base outfield eligible. He only has 4 home runs this season, but he's got a 60 out of 60 raw power grade over on FanGraphs. For some reason, it hasn't shown up in the majors. Strider, though, 12 home runs given up on the season, still see some power in his future. I think that's a long shot it didn't make my card, but I thought about it.
Rowdy Tellez. So a couple of things. When I'm giving out my home run pick, it's twofold. Number one, it's who do I think is somewhat likely to homer? Also, who is going to homer that's going to benefit my lineups? And then I don't want it to be somebody who's crazy, crazy obvious. So I'm going to land on Rowdy Tellez. That is my dong pick of the day. And that is also where we are closing out the show. So guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also don't forget about our podcast channel. Go and check out the Stokastic Podcast Network. If you guys want to listen to our strategy show and you're on the go, maybe you don't have time to listen to Live Before Lock, go check out our podcast channel and give us a 5-star review while we're at it. We appreciate it very much. Guys, I hope your lineups all win. I hope somebody wins a tournament that's watching today. I hope it's me, but if not, it might as well be one of you guys. I'll be back here tomorrow on Live Before Lock. Have a good night. See y'all here tomorrow.